Hey guys, Brady here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from the vintage Caravan Monuments, out April 16th on Napalm Records. This album has 11 tracks, 61 minutes in length, and this is the band's 5th full-length studio album. They are a rock band from Iceland, and if you like psychedelic rock, 70s inspired rock sound, you definitely want to stick around for this review because that's what the vintage Caravan is all about, and that's what Monuments is going to deliver. Now, as far as the structure of this album is concerned, it matches the soundscape that it has. I actually feel like the two kind of live off of each other, and that is a very diverse approach. There's a diverse approach to the way the songs are constructed, to the way the track listing is put together, and then obviously that impacts the soundscape that the album has and vice versa. But once you start navigating through this album, you realize that this is a record that opens different doors with every single track. It doesn't have a linear roadmap to it. You don't necessarily understand where you are, where you're going, and how you're going to get there. You're kind of taking one track at a time. No two songs sound alike, at least not back to back. You will find some similarities across the structure of the record, but not in sequence, which allows the album to feel a little bit more broken, but at the same time a little bit more dynamic, bringing you up, bringing you down, moving you sideways. You're never really sure what's around the corner. That keeps you engaged, that keeps you with your eyes peeled, that keeps you connected to the record from a different perspective than you would if the album had a more of a linear approach. It doesn't really allow you to get lost in it in terms of the soundscape or in terms of the atmosphere that it offers, but it makes you lose yourself a little bit in it because you don't have a clear path in which to travel on. And that is not just because of the structure being so dynamic and so different from song to song, but the soundscape as well. This is an album that offers different styles, different approaches within the rock umbrella, within the psychedelic rock umbrella across all 11 songs. And you'll hear that not just in how the songs are coming across in terms of the atmosphere that they create, but also in the style in which they were recorded. There's variances, there's changes from track to track that are very noticeable. You notice it in the theme of the song, you notice it in the lyrics, you notice in the soundscape, you notice in the atmosphere, and you notice it in the style of recording like I mentioned before. So all of these things allow the album to be very dynamic, very fluid, but at the same time feel a little bit disconnected. Within the soundscape itself, I felt that the album felt a little bit flat at times. It didn't feel like it had enough depth of sound. The drums are a little bit subdued. Not that I was expecting them to be super heavy on this record, but I was expecting them to create a little bit more of a foundation for everything else in order to allow the album to feel like it had a little bit more substance, that was a little bit more robust. So this is a record that feels thin at times, that feels flat at times, that feels very penetrating in terms of how it's put together, in terms of how the soundscape travels across all 11 songs, and I wish it had a little bit more momentum, they had a little bit more grounding to it, a stronger foundation. I feel it would help the overall experience of the record, and you can still go in different directions as far as the soundscape is concerned, but allowing some songs to be a little bit more grounded would allow the record to feel a little bit more cohesive, and it's not there. Now, there are two elements that really drive the experience of this album, and that is the guitars and the vocals, for different reasons. The guitars on this album are phenomenal. Let's look at the solos, for example. There's not a track on this record that doesn't have a solo that would just blow your mind. Magnificent solos, well executed. The sound is incredible, matching the dynamic of the song, matching the lyrics, the lyrical content, the style, the approach. Everything about the song comes to life with the solo. The solo really opens the doors. It's almost a way of letting the light in, shine in into the track and make the song feel a lot brighter, a lot stronger, a lot warmer. So I love the solos on this record, but overall the guitar work really pushes the record forward, and that's something that I was expecting. I was expecting this album to be very guitar driven, and that's exactly what this album is. The guitars really dictate where you're going on every single track. They dictate the direction, they dictate the tempo, they dictate the momentum of the songs, and that is a key component for the vintage Caravan that they kept alive on this record coming from previous albums. The other element, the vocals. The vocals are just phenomenal, but I like the changes. This is an album, like I said before, it changes a lot. It's very dynamic. There's a lot of diversity in it, and there's also diversity in the vocal approach, in the tone, in the delivery, and how it differs from song to song depending on the overall atmosphere, depending on how the song is created, how the song is recorded, and what the essence of the track is. This is a very important piece of the puzzle because you don't want a record like this, that's this dynamic, that's this volatile, to have a vocal approach that stays consistent throughout. it would kind of make no sense to me that the sound would push you in one direction, and in another song the sound would push you in a completely different direction. Meanwhile, the vocals are traveling down the middle. They kind of have to go with where the song is going, and that's exactly what you're going to get off of this record. So I think it gets you more out of each and every single track. It brings more life to the songs, it brings more life to the experience, and then overall it gives you more life to the record, into how you perceive the overall album, not just how you perceive the individual tracks. Overall, I really enjoyed this album. It has a great way of expanding and contracting as you move from song to song, but it failed in terms of gripping me to it. This is a record that I can listen to it, but I can walk away from it and then come back to it without feeling that I really missed anything, because it doesn't have that continuous approach to it. I don't feel connected to it, that I have to listen to every single track in order to get the full presence, in order to get what the album has in store for me. This is an album that you can take by piecework. You can listen to a couple of songs, walk away, miss one or two, come back, and everything feels exactly the same because it's so diverse. There's really no continuity to it. So if you walk away from it and you come back to it, nothing really goes astray. You just don't feel like nothing has been changed and everything is just the way it's supposed to be. And that's one of the elements that I really didn't like about this album, and didn't have that ability to glue me to it that I really like to have when I'm listening to a record from beginning all the way to the end. I don't want to feel like I can walk away from it. I want to feel like I need to stay with it all the way from the start to the finish. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, let's start off with Can't Get You Off of My Mind. What a catchy track. Perhaps one of the most hooky and catchy songs on this record. It has this rock vibe, pure rock and roll vibe to it that adds to the overall catchiness and hookiness that the track has. The verses push you towards the chorus. That's how the song is really created. That's how the song is delivered. It has a very simple and direct approach. At least it feels that way in the verses. Once you get into the chorus becomes the heartbeat of the song, and it becomes a little bit more layered. There's a little bit more for you to digest from it than you get from the verses. The guitar solo is excellent, but that could be said about any song on this album. It extends the life, it extends the energy of the song, it makes the song feel brighter, it makes the song feel warmer, and it really adds a different essence, and it makes that chorus feel even more impactful, feel even more hooky. It also adds volume to the overall track. It makes the song feel complete in it. I love this track, I love how it sounds, I love how hooky and catchy it is. It's just a great earworm. Next, Dark Times. I like the guitar sound on this track. I like what it does. It feels really driven. The guitars really take the forefront. They really take the lead, if you will, and how this track pulls itself forward. There's a little bit of fuzziness in the sound. There's a little bit of fuzziness coming from the guitars, but to me that just adds to the atmosphere of the track. It just adds to the essence of the song. It just captures better what the song has to offer to the listener. It brings that psychedelic vibe to the forefront. It really makes it more noticeable as you progress through it, because it becomes bigger and better as the song moves along. It starts off feeling a little bit more hidden within the track, and then the more you get deeper into it, the more that fuzziness comes to the forefront, the more of the psychedelic experience of the song becomes apparent. Another track with a great guitar solo. This album is very consistent on that front. I mentioned that already, and this song is no different. I really like the undertones that this track has. It has great guitar sound, and the undertones of the guitars are just phenomenal. Really bring a lot of force to the way the song comes together. Last but not least, Hell. Another track that is pushed by the guitars and the sound that the guitars have. On this song, I felt there was a little bit more layers to it. It didn't have that simplicity that you feel when you listen to it. Even though it comes at you sometimes in a more stripped down approach, specifically in the verses, it really feels like all the layers have been taken off of it. But when you listen to it, you can hear the different pieces that are coming together to give you this simple sound, but it's not really simple. When you look deep down inside, you can feel like there's more to it. You can hear the bass, you can hear the drums, you can hear the different guitar approaches, but the overall sound and the overall experience is one that just pushes you forward with the greatest of eases, and because of that, it feels simple to the ear. And I love that style, I love that sound. The vocals really engage themselves with the track perfectly. They create a little bit more of a robust sound around the chorus, a song that really grows and expands once you get into the chorus. Specifically when you compare the chorus to the verses, the two really seem like the yin and yang, creating this dynamic fluidity, peaks and valleys. It's a song that has incredible ebbs and flows that just moves really well from one into the other. It doesn't have a clear break, it just smooths and it transitions perfectly from an absolute peak to a very deep valley in terms of how much sound and how many elements, how many different layers are present. Backing vocals create such an incredible dynamic. They're a huge part of this track and how the track comes across, becoming a little bit more engaging and a little bit more interesting in terms of the output that provides to the listener. This is it, the Vintage Caravan with Monuments, out April 16th on Napalm Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.